Alright guys, this is going to be the introduction to the old church. It's the old Presbyterian church, 1832. And you guys know last weekend we did the house. So this weekend we're doing the old church. So guys, these are just a bunch of introductions before we get into anything else. So this is the introduction to the Presbyterian church, and we're going to find out some history behind this old church as well. Wow, it's a big room, big building, beautiful. Wow, look up there. Wow.
There's another one in Wellback trunks too.
Oh yeah, another Wellback trunk. Guys, we're going to be investigating all of these places at some point.
Holy cow.
This is the museum, I believe?
Yes, this is the,
Wow. Look at all this,
and I
guys.
can, if you guys, whichever you would like, would you guys like to hear some history first, or would you guys like to just kind of browse around first? I'll leave that up to you. Okay. Once this mask allows my glasses to unfold. Okay. You are now into what is the first Potosi Presbyterian church building, which was used between the years of 1832 to 1833. The old Presbyterian church building on Breton Street here in Potosi is Potosi's oldest public building and the oldest Presbyterian church building still standing west of the Mississippi River. The Potosi Presbyterian congregation was organized in the spring of 1832 by 5 members under the leadership of Reverend John Cohen, pioneer Presbyterian organizer in Missouri. This present building saw the start of construction in the fall of 1832, and it was completed in the spring of 1833. This building housed Presbyterian worship services from 1832 to 1907, when the congregation moved to the new Presbyterian church, which is, if you guys notice, where you all checked in at the Banter house, and then you've got the car wash, the church, which is right across the street, the rock establishment. That is the new Presbyterian church. Church years in this building. The Potosi Presbyterian Church has maintained all of its church minutes since the organization of the church, and they tell a fascinating story of this church and of religion history here in Potosi. For instance, the minutes show in one of the early years, a lady member of the congregation was called on the carpet and chastised by the congregation for the sin of playing croquet on a Sunday. This church was also the scene of early presbytery, of district meetings of the Presbyterian faith in Missouri. At a meeting here in this building in the 1850s, the Potosi Presbytery passed a motion to establish a Presbyterian college in Missouri, an act that led to the organization of the present Westminster College in Fulton. Although the congregation was not integrated, blacks were not admitted as members of the church in the early years. Black people were permitted to attend services as slaves with their masters or as free blacks. In a practice common with other churches of the period, and blacks were married by the early white Protestant ministers. The balcony at the rear of the church is often called a slave gallery. Although research does not indicate this exactly, it is believed that blacks were seated here for services. One young black man who probably attended services here was later to become nationally famous. John Anderson Langford was born here in Potosi in 1873 to parents who have been slaves here. Miss Annie Coe Bug, which they also have multiple items here within the museum. The mother of Miss Mary B. Eversole organized a religious education class for young blacks, one of whom was John Anderson Langford. Miss Bug and other members of the Presbyterian congregation realized the talents of the young man and were evidently instrumental in seeing that he advanced to higher education, giving assistance that saw him go to Lincoln University in Jefferson City, Missouri's first black state college. Langford then went on to the pioneer black college, Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, where he was a graduate of Tuskegee's first architectural class in 1891 or 1892. Langford later taught at black colleges in Atlanta and in North Carolina, and by 1902 had established an architectural practice in Washington, D.C. In 1906, when the Presbyterians were planning their new church building, Langford returned to Potosi and in appreciation for support given him by the congregation, designed the present new Presbyterian church and supplied all the plans free of charge. Langford died in Washington in 1946, and at the time of his death was regarded as the Dean of American Negro Architects. This church building today is virtually as it was when it was built in 1832 and 1833. A fairly simple building of homemade bricks and plastered walls, with the only ornamental and rear balcony with its turned columns and railing. A steeple was added at the front of the building's roof in later years, apparently in about 1870, and it later deteriorated and was removed, returning the building to virtually the same look it had when it was built. Also, about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, something new. We had a tornado come through and it blew out some of the windows, and we had to replace some windows. Otherwise, everything is the same as it was originally. The front two doors, I don't know if you noticed from the, while you were standing out front, or if you may notice while you're here or not, from the inside were common in most Protestant churches of the time. We know, for instance, that the first Methodist church building in Potosi also had 2 front doors, which reflected the segregation of unmarried members at church meetings. At the Methodist, for instance, the unmarried males entered through one door and sat at one side of the church. The unmarried females entered through the other door and sat at the other side of the church. And the married couples entered through either door and sat in the middle, dividing the unmarried males and females. We don't know for sure if that was the practice here in the Presbyterian Church, but it may well have been. Church, through the years in this building, have given various services to the community. After 1907, when services moved to the new church, this building and the Opera House, which is the building right next door, the ground floor auditorium of the 1849 Masonic Hall served as community halls for Potosi. Picture shows for Potosi first appeared in this building when George Wallace of Old Mines showed silent movies here in the World War I era. In the 1920s, this building also became the first gymnasium for the first basketball teams at Potosi High School, which, if you look closely right here, if I could find it, since we no longer have that light, you can actually still see right there the fastenings where the hoop and that was when it was attached. Whenever it was the gymnasium and they had the basketball, and that's still there. And thank you for the assistance.
You're welcome.
Then after see where this which they then moved to the grade school, which is the brick building, which is just a street right up, which is now the 4th and 5th grade center, which is, I'd say maybe 2 blocks or so, give or take, just straight up this road. And the Boy Scouts also found a home here for a number of years as their scout hall from the 1920s through the 1960s for the Boy Scout Troop 409, which was sponsored by the Presbyterian Church. In 1963, the Potosi Bicentennial, this building first saw some initial cleanup and restoration as it was used for a museum for the Bicentennial. In 1964, profits from the Bicentennial were used to put a new roof on the building, which has helped preserve it so well. The new roof of split shingles is identical to the original roof which was on the building. In 1982, for the 150th anniversary of the Presbyterian Church in Potosi, the building saw further painting, floor refinishing, balcony restoration, and other work. And that summer, it became the joint home of the Maine Au Breton Historic Society and of the Christian bookstore sponsored by the church, which we now no longer have the Christian bookstore. The pews in the church, which we only have one of the pews left, and they just came through and did a lot of reorganizing, but I do believe the pew is just right there.
Oh, I see it.
It's got the Potosi sign right on it.
Wow.
It is homemade, fastened with square nails. And then they did have the original pulpit in here at one time, but they had to remove it just due to the moisture and that in the air. But now as far as the history about the museum itself.
Okay.
Now, whenever it comes to paranormal wise, there is multiple different things that have been encountered in this location, because I am pretty much in this location every time we have an event. So, but there is one thing that a lot of people really like to hear about, and that is of the murder of the Lapine family. And it is the murder of David Lapine and family on November 19, 1870, about a mile from Potosi. David Lapine, his wife Louisa, their child, along with Lapine's sister, Mary Christopher, and her child were murdered with their bodies burned to ashes. John Armstrong and Charles Jolly were charged with the murders. Leon Jolly, a young brother of Charles Jolly, witnessed the murders. He said Charles and John broke into the cabin, shot and killed the family. They shot David Lapine 4 times and cut his head off with an axe. After that, Armstrong hit the 2 women and the 2 children in the head with the axe, killing them. They then set fire to the house and burned it to the ground. The 2 were captured and put in jail here in Potosi on November 26th. About 75 men tried to break them out of jail. The sheriff and his men killed 1 man and wounded 6 more. After that, they were taken to St. Louis until the trial. Trial was on December 21st. The next day, the jury brought back a guilty verdict. On January 27, 1871, they were hanged and pronounced dead at 2:13 p.m. They were buried in the Catholic cemetery in Potosi. The remains of the Lapine family were put in a box and buried in the town cemetery in Potosi. And we actually have the original, well, it's a photocopy, but it's a photocopy of the original right here. And it was such a big ordeal that people, they actually left their bodies hanging for days to make it a spectacle for everyone to see. And there was people that came for miles by foot and by wagon to witness this. And now, going as far as the cemetery is concerned, we actually have, we can either talk about this inside or we can go outside, I mean, whichever you prefer. We actually have 3 cemeteries here. We've got the Masonic Cemetery. There is the Presbyterian Cemetery, which is here in the center. And then over on this right-hand side is the Town Cemetery. Now, they are, we don't know the location, but the Lapine family is to be said to be buried within the right around the back part of the church in a little box, because it was nothing but ashes, the whole family. And then we've got, because you guys just came from the Banters, the whole Banter plot is out here. So they, if you're interested in, whenever you guys are out looking later when you're doing your walking around, if you would like for me to show you that when you're investigating in that, I mean, I would be more than happy to do that. And then Moses Austin, which was the founder of our town, and that, he is actually just buried just right outside.
Oh, wow.
Here.
And was it his son that went to Texas?
Yes, Stephen Austin is the one that went down to Texas.
I read that. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, wow. Is that what Austin, Texas
Yeah.
is for? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So,
Yeah.
It's over there in that county.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have to go there.
but, and then whenever you go down to, because you're going down to this store next, and he is he's a plethora of knowledge. And he will probably tell you tons of information about Moses Austin, because his grandfather was actually the sheriff at the time that the Texans came up and tried to body snatch Moses
Wow.
and take him back to Texas.
Wow.
So he's a huge plethora of knowledge down there.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So if you have any other questions here, or if you guys want to look around or whatever, feel free to do so. Or
What's
Yeah,
the story
it
back
does.
when your log house, the dollhouse over there?
So, let's go.
that, well, that right there, that is basically is
There's the dollhouse.
a replica of the main house.
Oh, wow.
And it was made by
This is a replica of the Banter house that we visited last weekend. Wow, that is so cool. It's beautiful. Huge.
But where we would typically
Alright guys, this is this is the old Presbyterian church. I'm trying not to make these videos go too long. There's Moses Austin right there. Oh, my light. Hold on. There's Moses Austin right there. That is so cool. The creator of Austin, Texas. He is from here. Here's some old stuff here. All this is old stuff from the area, guys.
you will also bypass
A mannequin.
his original
That's so cool.
home place.
Guys, I would give you more information about all this stuff, but we're already almost 30 minutes in on this video.
With the exception
So
of
I'm just
some
going to kind of
rock
show you guys
foundation,
around.
And we've got a plaque there as well, right before you cross the bridge.
Upstairs.
That is correct.
Some
Yes.
old stuff in here. This old covered wagon. And there is somebody in it right there. That's this wagon. Wow. Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you. All right, guys. I'm supposed to go on the other side and look at what's over here. Oh, look at the old typewriters. Wow. Oh, wow, this is beautiful. Guys, this is the back side of that dollhouse. And it is an exact replica of what was in the Banter house last weekend. All the way down to little old pictures. Wow. This looks so real. Doesn't feel like you guys can actually just go in here. Actual stairs. That is so cool. Wow, this is beautiful. I would have never came back here if that lady wouldn't have told me to. Wow. That is beautiful, guys. There's actual pictures of the Banter house we went to. And pictures of people doing things here. And the vestibule in the back we haven't seen. More old stuff. This is an old loom. It's an old loom built in 1816. Wow. They made cotton and stuff on this. Alright, guys. We are making our way out of here. Then we're going to get...
For the many nights I've sat up here
and... Oh, you guys are fine. Beautiful building. So old. Super old building. Okay, Mom and Lashana's over there in a corner somewhere. And let's end this. Alright guys, that was the old Presbyterian church from 1832. And I hope you guys enjoyed that. Next weekend, I think we're going to bring you the store. And sorry these videos are so long, but the introductions take a long time. But you guys are learning about them. So please like, subscribe, and share everything. Thank you guys, love you. I don't know where Mom and Lashana is. We'll be back. Actually, we won't. Next Friday. Once again.